to segment 5.2. In this particular segment, we'll be looking at how it is that the courts look at information and define whether or not information actually is consistent with UTSA. Now, one of the things that I'm in the textbook, page 221, and this particular case, the Stenstrom case, will relate to our segments 5.2 through 5.4. Now, the one question that I have there is, what are the two requirements to show that information qualifies for protection under trade secret law? And I would direct your attention, we will discuss this in our lecture, but just so that you have a basis for it, page 229, the last paragraph there, the court gives us some information on what actually must be done to show that information constitutes a trade secret. And they said first bullet point is that its information is sufficiently secret to give it, quote, a competitive advantage. And that is something that is very much how the courts look at is whether or not the information is providing the company with a competitive advantage over another company or competitor. Second, the second thing that must be shown is that it takes affirmative measures to prevent others from acquiring or using the information. Now, what's interesting is that the third requirement for trade secrets deals with this idea of maintaining secrecy. But nonetheless, right here, in order for information to constitute a trade secret, they are again emphasizing that there must be, quote, affirmative measures taken. So when we look at information, one, think in the back of your mind, what is the competitive advantage that is being given here? And two, in short, what actions are being taken in order to maintain that secret aspect of it? So with that in mind, let's take a look at what actually constitutes information. And I have a number of examples here for including formulas, patterns. Now this would be, for example, drawings necessary to make a machine. So you can think of CAD type patterns or things of that nature. Compilation. Now we have looked at compilation a little bit with respect to copyrights and whether or not information that is being assembled together, namely within white pages or things of that nature, could actually receive some type of copyright protection. But we know compilation of facts can be protected as a trade secret. And as a reminder, facts themselves are not eligible for copyright. The arrangement of facts may be on the potential basis for copyrightable material. So computer programs often are protected. Use of the computer programs often would be protected by patents. Device, a design of a machine or manufacturer, again the device itself often is by patents, but as we've discussed, there may be elements that go into actually creating the device that may be eligible for trade secret protection as well. And last but not least, the general catch-all, any know-all or know-how that is specific to an industry may in fact, and I would say that specific to an industry and not otherwise publicly known, could be the basis for information that qualifies for a trade secret. Now in this Stenstrom's case, trade secret is very similar to what I would say contract law. Because contract law, often you'll get some type of a scenario and it comes down to the facts. Who said what, at what time, and what action was taken based off of the representations, etc. And trade secrets is very much the same thing. And so what you're doing is you're looking at the parties, you're looking at who said what actions were taken, etc., etc. So first off, let's take a little look at to who the parties are, what was said, what the actions are being taken. So we have Mesh here. June 18, 2003, Stenstrom purchased Precision Petroleum. And Mesh was an employee of this Precision Petroleum for in the range of about 7 years. So he was a prior employee, that company got acquired up, and now Stenstrom is now the owner of PPI, Precision Petroleum Incorporated. Now, on the same day that the Stenstrom purchased PPI, it also hired Mesh, who signed a non-competition agreement. He also signed a confidentiality agreement. So in other words, there was a new contract and new engagement agreement between the employee and the new acquiring party. Now, Mesh's role was essentially the same even after this acquisition. So he was working previously as an estimator and also as a project manager. And when the company was acquired, he functioned in the same capacity. So he estimated petroleum jobs, he bid on the jobs, and then he managed any of those successful bids as well. So the scope of his employment did not change with this acquisition. The only change, if you could say there was a change, was namely that there was a new engagement agreement between him and the new employer. So, and here are the facts. Now, there's a lot of facts here, but let's just go through them briefly. Mesh described his spreadsheet. It all comes down to one spreadsheet that is really the source of debate for this entire case. And he says that he described it as follows: the material and labor worksheet contained part numbers, quantities, list prices, discounts, extended pricing, markups. He also entered quantities, subcontractor bids, labor hours, markup percentages. The bid tab incorporated the material and labor data. And then he used all this information that he went in and actually sometimes manually revised entries as well, based off of the scope of the work that was provided, etc. So you have this spreadsheet with a lot of information, based both off of market type conditions as well as historical pricing. You have a lot of data that goes into this spreadsheet that allows him to function better as this bidder. December 22nd, 2006, Mesh resigned from his job with Stenstrom. So if we went back again, it was June 18th, 2003, that Stenstrom bought PPI. And it was later on, literally 3 years later, September 2006, when Mesh actually resigned from his job. And according to Mesh, in that same time frame, September 2006, he copied a subdirectory entitled Estimating from Stenstrom's server onto his personal Dell jukebox, which was, a music player. He testified that he did this with his supervisor's knowledge. So with permission, he went ahead and he took the contents of the spreadsheet, he copied it over to his Dell jukebox, and then he left. Now, he conceded that some of the data that he copied over, he used to prepare bids at the new company, Precision Petroleum Incorporated. So he went from there, and he did this on his own, not at the new PPI's request. So he left Stenstrom and went over to this new company, which was the new PPI. Now, Stenstrom here is indicating that he stole information. And so the question is, what information did he steal? Or potentially steal? And in its complaint, Stenstrom alleged that its confidential information constituted trade secrets under the Act, the UTSA, and that it had exercised, quote, reasonable efforts to maintain the secrecy. Now that gets into the third element that we'll look more at here. And confidentiality of its information. It further alleged that this information is not generally known. Now what does that get to? It gives them a competitive advantage. So what they're doing here is, in essence, saying this information gave us, Stenstrom, a competitive advantage, and we took, quote, steps to maintain its secrecy. All right, so the question is, was there a trade secret? So some of the information that we look at first is whether or not information can qualify as information that would be protected under a trade secret. So here we look at whether or not, to the extent to which this information was known outside of the business, whether it's known by employees within the business, whether measures were taken to actually guard it and keep it secret. What is the value of the information? Are we talking about a dollar here? Are we talking about millions? What's the cost and effort to actually develop this information? The ease of difficulty of actually independently actually acquiring this information or even duplicating it. So the result here is that the court concluded that Stenstrom failed to actually raise a question that the spreadsheet information including profit margin, was sufficiently secret to give it a competitive advantage. And so Mesh's testimony indicated that he could replicate and reproduce the spreadsheet in about 2 to 3 days. And he additionally asserted that he would not require information from Stenstrom to do so. So obviously Stenstrom disagreed with that position, but Mesh said, you know what? I could redo this entire thing in about 2 to 3 days. So that which they are indicating is a trade secret. It is not, because it is information that is not giving a competitive advantage here. 2 to 3 days is not that much time to actually duplicate the information. Court concluded that Stenstrom's information does not constitute a trade secret.